Hey, it's Sean Havens with the Benefit Haven. I wanted to continue our annuity training or our annuity presentation here with the concepts of how to sell an annuity. So this is where it kind of gets interesting and fun. And the appointments itself, you don't have to really be too concerned about, mentioning annuity or talking about annuity products. You want to first talk about concepts. And this is why it becomes really easy and where it becomes really easy to sell annuities. Okay, so it's all about concepts. A concept is something easy for somebody to understand and giving them a picture to understand. So, or giving them some type of concept or maybe game or illustration, things like that. Things that they can relate to. So that's what annuity concepts are, and this is how we sell annuities. So we ask questions in the fact finder. You're asking questions about, where their money is and what their risk tolerance is and all those kinds of things. So now that we understand, we know it's either in the stock market or it's in savings or it's in a CD, it's in a money market. And now we're going to talk to them about, about those things and where they feel like like they want their money, right? So now that they're retired or whatever market you're working in, I work in the senior market. So if they're retired, their situation may change, their goals may change. So I want to talk to them about what those goals are now, and I want to bring them along with me on those goals. So I'm not just telling them, right? I'm not advising them right now. I'm just talking to them, and I'm getting together some of their idea of where they want to be now. Okay, so and we're doing this by asking questions. We're going through the process. And one of the ways to do that is just talking to them about a strategy, right? So what is your strategy, or what would you like your strategy to be? And I put a few on here, and there's a lot of them, but here's a few that you can do. If you're not talking about annuities at all right now, then I would suggest at least starting here and start to talk about it, because even if you talk about it, then you're going to write business. I'll give you a quick story. So my first annuity I ever wrote, I was sitting down with a lady, and we just had a training about annuities. And I was still a little bit fuzzy and unclear about how they worked, but I didn't even know how to fill out an application. Nobody went over that with me. So after the training, I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. So I went out the next week, and I had an appointment. I started talking to this nice lady about annuities, and I was just saying annuities and things like that. And she said, she was asking me about them, and I was telling her everything I learned at the training and everything. So I felt like I knew a little bit more about it, and I said you can earn X amount more than what you're getting at the bank. She had a CD, so she's like, oh, that sounds pretty good. And then she was making chili, so she gave me a bowl of chili, and she said, I'll be right back. So she left, and she ended up going and getting a cashier's check. In the meantime, I had an application on me, but I didn't know how to fill it out. So then I called the office, and I learned how to fill out the application while she was going and getting her check. So it was about $25,000. It wasn't huge, but that was the story of how it started. So I didn't know a whole lot about it. I just started talking about it, and that was the start of all of the annuities and the millions of dollars of annuities that I've written over the years. So just talk about it. I mean, that's the best thing. Numbers are numbers. We work a numbers game, so the more you talk about it, the better you're going to get. But here's some good concepts that you can talk to people and prospects that have a little more money, that know a little bit more about investments and about different things that they have. So here's the first thing: is you have these three ideas or strategies, right? So if you ask them, you can write this down, and you can say, out of these three strategies, if you were to put your money in one of these, which one would you do? Okay, and more than likely, you're probably saying, obviously it's one of them here. And you're right. They're going to choose this one, right? Okay, why would you want to choose that one? It's not really making you any money. Why would you want to choose that one? Volatility, up and down, right? So this is something that you may do as a growth early on in life to really grow your nest egg. But in retirement years, or at least some of your nest egg, why wouldn't you want to have it in a situation like this where you're either going to go up or sideways, up or sideways? It never goes down. That's a concept, right? And you can ask them, how much of your money is in a strategy like this? And let them answer. So and ask them another follow-up question. What about this strategy makes sense to you, or do you like, or do you think would benefit you at this time? So now you're getting them to explain to you, instead of you just telling them what you want them to know, you're getting them to explain it to you, right? That's what we want to do with questions. That's the power of asking questions, is let them talk themselves in to whatever you're doing instead of you talking them into it, right? So here we go. That's one concept, right? Now we have the game. All right, so the game is fun. This is where we start we can play a game with them, and there's different ways to do this. A good friend of mine showed me a great game with $2 bills. I'm going to make it simple right now in this video. Think of it, I'm in Vegas, so think of it as a slot machine, right? So you go into a casino and you have $20, right? You put that $20 in, you pull it, and you lose the first one. But you look up and you still have $20, right? The next pull, you win. Now it goes up. Now you have $22. The next pull, you lose, but you look up and you still have $22, right? That's how the stair step works. So you can actually take out money, and you can show this game with them. Okay, you can give them the money. This is your deposit. You can have it going up when you win and going sideways. Nothing happens when you lose, right? So you can play that fun game with them so they can understand the concept of how an annuity works. You never lose, but you make money when you win, when the market goes up. So that's how annuities work, and you can play that game with them so they can easily understand how that works. And you can ask them, how much of your nest egg would you like in something like this? You know, would you go to that slot machine? Would that slot machine even be available? Would so many people be at that slot machine? Of course it would, because it's a slot machine that never loses. So if you have a strategy that never loses, then why wouldn't you do that? And that's what you want to convey to your clients. And then you ask them, how much of your nest egg would you like to put in a slot machine that never loses, right? So, and you can do that with a variety of different games. You can think of your own game if you want. I just said a slot machine because I'm in Vegas, right? So that's the game. Now, risk tolerance. All right, risk tolerance is important because risk tolerance changes over time. So there's a rule of 100 that Warren Buffett says, and it says take 100 and then subtract your age, and that's a percentage of what you should have in growth or in safety, right? So if somebody is 65 years old and we do a rule of 100, we subtract the 65, so they shouldn't have more than 35% of their money in risky funds, right? So that's what the risk tolerance is. You can share that with them, but ask them, what is your risk tolerance? What does that mean? Okay, so how much of your money are you willing to risk? Are you okay with risking? And if they say 0 or nothing, but yet they're fully into investments because they haven't talked to their financial advisor for a while, or they just have no clue, right? That's important to know because they're not in line, right? They haven't communicated that this person doesn't want to risk, and yet they're fully in risk type investments. So, or risky type investments. So that's the risk tolerance we want to go over. And you can ask them, is your current plan or goal in line with your portfolio, with what you have in place, right? You don't need a securities license to ask questions to just, you're not analyzing any, stock accounts. You're not doing this. You're just simply asking questions about what their goals are, what their plans are, what they want to have, right? So you're doing them a service by helping them get to where they should be or they want to be. So if last thing we want to do is have a 2008 happen, and this person, you didn't talk to them about annuities, and another crash happens, and they're left with 40% of their nest egg because you didn't want to go through this with them, right? At least if you do go through this, you can feel comfortable, and you can leave saying, hey, you chose to be fully at risk. And if you're okay with that, then I'm okay with that, right? So at least if you go through this process and you get them to understand things that are easy concepts, then they can take action, or you can go get an illustration and show them what you can do, right? And at least get some of it. Now here's the other thing. Be careful not to get greedy. If somebody has $100,000, right, and that's all they have for their liquid funds, Don't try to take 90,000 of it or 80,000 of it. And I know suitability-wise, they probably won't let you do it anyway, but don't do it anyway, right? Because as soon as you start getting greedy with this and you don't give them enough liquid assets, they're going to start to get the buyer's remorse. They're going to start to wonder why I just moved all my money into this, right? So start with something, right? Maybe it's half, maybe it's 25,000 or 30,000. I'll tell you what, if you break down 25,000, if you do 25,000 a week, that's $100,000 a month. That's $1.2 million a year in annuity business, right? If you're with us and you're getting 6% of that, you're getting that's another $72,000 that you're making a year. $72,000 for 25,000 a week, right? So that's that lady that I didn't know what I was doing, but yet I wrote 25,000 annuity business because she had a CD that wasn't doing anything for her. So if I just did that on a weekly basis, that's $72,000. You could probably take $72,000 extra in your income, right? So talk about annuities and don't always try to go after the huge amounts, right? So risk tolerance. Now, safe money. Now, going back to the CD or a money market or just a savings account, we ask them, where do you keep your safe money? So let's say they don't want to touch the financial advisor. They don't want to touch that. Okay, all right, that happens. That happens a lot. But where do you keep your safe money? Well, what do you mean? Where do you keep your money, that's earning, that's not at risk, that's not in the market? Well, I just keep it in the bank, or I keep it in a CD. Okay, so now we have a comparison. We can show them. Once again, we can show them. So this is what your money's doing. So what is the rate of return that you're getting on that safe money? Oh, it's nothing. It's like 0.0 whatever percent. Well, how long have you been enjoying that 0.0 whatever percent? And they'll probably laugh. But the reality is, if they have, let's say, $100,000 or $200,000 sitting in a bank account, doing nothing for them, not working for them, does that make sense? Right? So then you want to ask them, how much money do you feel comfortable with keeping liquid as an emergency fund that you can access right away? What would you feel comfortable with keeping there and letting the rest of it work for you? Well, maybe 50,000, maybe 75,000. Okay, great. So you have 100,000 in there. So your 25,000, that's in excess of what you feel comfortable with. What would you like that to do for you? Right? Are you okay with that still continuing to make 0.01% or 1% or 2%, whatever it is? Or would you want to have an average of 7 to 8%? Well, how do you do that? I'm glad you asked. So then you can go into how it works a little bit, right? So you can talk about the previous video, how it's tied to the S&P 500. The S&P 500 goes up, you make money, it goes down, nothing happens, you're still whole, right? And not to mention that you have 100% backing, that they have 100% of the money that you have in the annuity, or they have in the annuity, set aside in a separate account, a reserve account for you. So that's powerful. So these are different concepts that you can go through with your client to get them to really understand how it works, talking about it, and how to just, and then from there, it's a matter of the application's easy. All this stuff is easy. So I'll do like a 1035 exchange, a qualified rollover, so that you can understand how those things work. But if somebody just has, an extra $25,000 or $50,000 sitting in a bank account that they can write you a check, it's the easiest thing ever. You do the application, and they write a check. They write a check to the company, and that's it. It's really simple. It gets issued right away as long as it's suitable for the client, and you're making a lot of money and giving them more higher rate of return and making their money last longer for them. So those are the concepts. Go out there and start talking about annuities. Get better and better at them, and make yourself the kind of money that you should be making by talking about annuities. They're great. They're becoming a lot more on the forefront of retirement. You see more commercials on them, everything else. They're safe, they're great. I've made a lot of money, and it's time for you to do the same.